Hello, everyone. Let me know if you could see and hear me okay. I was already talking to some of you in the comments. It's so exciting to see everyone here already and excited about this presentation. I am super excited to share my tips and tricks with all of you. So if you don't know me, I am Holly Davis, also known as WriteHollyDavis on YouTube. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter. And if you don't know me, I am a YA and middle grade fantasy writer, and I'm looking to be traditionally published. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm a twin. My twin is also here, Heather, and lots of good friends I'm seeing. Let me scroll back up. Yes, Keelan is here as an early riser. Thank you, Keelan, for hosting this AuthorTube virtual retreat. I'm super excited and glad that you entrusted me with teaching and presenting during this retreat. So, and Kimberly was also here early. Hi, Amanda. Alexis. Jasmine's here. I'm just gonna go and say hi to everyone. Savannah. B. Let's see. TA, hi. I haven't seen you in a while. Awesome. Hello. G is here. This is great. Let's see who else. Scribbling Cat. Oh, I love that name. Oh, I didn't realize that was your name. Jesse's here. Hey, Jesse. Zara's here. Tracy, Shankurti. So many names I recognize. Hello. Kay. Oh, awesome. She's super excited because she's starting edits on her work in progress to get ready for PitMad. Yay, I am so excited. Yes, like this is definitely going to help you guys throughout any stage of editing that you're in. And even if you're not in the stage of editing right now, when you're writing, like you can, after you're done with that first draft, you can look back on this video and it'll be like just super comprehensive with everything that you're going to learn today. And I blocked like an hour and a half time. I don't know exactly how long this is going to take. It also depends on how many questions people have and all of that. So we will see how long it takes, but it should at least be more than 30 minutes, I would think. And then also I had to cover up the part where there's the litter box because Zuko is back home. If you don't know, he had bladder stone surgery and had to go back to the ER after we had already taken him home because his body was not happy. So now he's got a catheter, he's been eating, he's been doing well. But anyways, if you see him trying to lick himself with the cone on, I am sorry. Okay, let's see. Oh, the comments jumped. Whoa, let's see. Yes, Heather is here. Yay, hey Heather. Zoe, the dawdling writer. Oh my goodness, hello everyone. Martin's here. Hey Martin. Hannah, Katie, Sarah. Wow, this is great. JC, I'm giving all of you guys a shout out. Alicia, hi Alicia. Angela's here. Hey Angela. Hello guys. Danya, Becca, Alley Cat, and Brittany. Brittany's here. Yay. Selena? Oh, is that Selena or Selena? Beautiful name. And I got a blank pages here. Hello. Hi. So I just wanted to kind of shout everyone out because I really appreciate you being here. So yeah, this is like the first ever AuthorTube virtual retreats, which is awesome. So today is all about editing, all things editing. Let me get the banner up here. All things editing, yay. So, whether you're editing a first draft or you've already gone through multiple revisions, I'm hoping to share my tips and tricks with you to help you polish your manuscripts and either get them ready to query if you're looking to traditionally publish or ready to publish if you're going the self-publishing route. So I'm trying to cater to both people because these tips will help with both routes that you're taking. You'll also learn the differences between the different types of editing and like kind of the order, what stage you need to complete all of the edits. So I've got a little presentation here. Let me pop it up. Oops, that's not right. Here we go. That's better. You can actually see. I'll take that away as well. Okay, and obviously, like these things that I'm sharing with you are my experiences that have helped me get a manuscript that has been query ready. So, you know, take all of that at face value. But these are just things that have helped me. So obviously everyone's processes are different. So that's why I am having people, like, you know, if you have your own advice and questions, feel free to put them into the comments. Okay, let me see. Oh, yes, I was going to do that, Keelan, don't worry. Oh, you messed up the schedule. Okay, yes, yeah, that was actually my next thing here on my notes list. So I did want to say that make sure you don't miss the secret word, which I'm going to reveal sometime during the live stream. So during each of the retreat events, you collect a secret word, and that counts as a drawing to win one of 4 $15 Amazon gift cards. And the link should be in the description box below to fill out a form with like your feedback at the end of the day, hopefully, once the retreat is all over, so you can put in all of the secret words that you've gathered. And then also at the end of this, so right now, well, it's 12 p.m. Central for me, but 1 p.m. Eastern, at 4 p.m. Eastern, Scarlett Cole will be talking about writing sprint hacks on her channel, which is also linked down below. And then, oh, okay, my schedule, yes. So the correct schedule is in the description too. And then there's also going to be a live stream with writing sprints too, I believe at the same time, and that will go for longer. So I am definitely going to hop onto that one, and the retreat so far has been awesome. So I already saved them to like watch later, to like look back to and refer to afterwards, because we've had such valuable content. So I'm really excited. Okay, let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay, Katie Young's here. Hello. Ryan, hi. Awesome. So more people are jumping in. Okay, so let's see. I think I got to all of the logistics. So I wanted you guys to let me know in the comments if you're currently editing or drafting, and if you're editing, what number draft you're on, just so I can kind of get an idea of like where everyone is in their stage of writing. I know when I ask people for like what kind of content they want on my YouTube channel, a lot of people want the editing advice, but then when I'm on social media, everyone's like drafting, so like just writing. So I know that there's a big mixture of both, but also like editing has made me a better writer. So I feel like even if you're not at the editing stage yet, these tips will still help you, because they'll be in the back of your mind, and it may help you with things that you don't even realize, like, oh wait, like, is this arc right? Like as you're writing it, and it can help you kind of fix things and troubleshoot as you go, so that you're doing less editing later on. So this will also help you in that sense. Okay, let me make sure there's no questions. Okay, and I will be asking at the end of each section if anyone has any questions, so you can kind of save them specifically for those topics. Okay. Oh yeah, I had to shout out. So Ryan is like the coffee aficionado, but I had to shout out my mom for getting me this Mrs. coffee mug with a little heart on the back, and my husband has a Mr. one. But if you guys don't know, I got married on Wednesday, so yay! I'm super happy and super excited. Okay, let's see. Awesome. Yes, JJ uses a Kindle to do a fast read through the editing for editing purposes. That is so cool. I haven't done that yet, but I'm really interested in trying that out. That also saves paper, but I will talk about kind of printing out your manuscript too later. Heather's editing draft 1 to create draft 2. Sarar is on draft 3, editing. Awesome. Editing the first draft. Drafting a couple projects, on draft 3 for one project, draft 1 for another. Awesome. Sarah's on draft 3. Ooh, just finished developmental edits. Yes. See, okay, line edits are my baby, so I love it so much. Oh, lots of comments. Okay, you guys, awesome. Thank you for sharing. I won't be able to go through them all. And then thank you. Oh, congrats. Oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are so sweet. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like there's a good mixture of people like in different stages, which is really exciting. Editing's my thing. Okay. All right, so first things first, I'm going to be talking about editing the first draft. So obviously, once you finish writing your first draft, you want to look at editing it. And that first type of edit is called developmental edits. And AKA that's also called like big picture changes. So later on, then I'll switch to how to revise more polished drafts and line editing. And I also have, by the way, I also have some free checklists for both developmental and line edits if you sign up on my website for like my members page. But that is good to like kind of keep that in mind. So I use that when I'm editing to be like, make sure I don't forget anything, because as you will see, there is a lot to think about. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I totally forgot to like look at this. But if you have the checklist, then it really helps you out. And that's also linked in the description all the way at the bottom. So that's the least important. No, I'm just kidding. So the biggest thing that I want to say is that you want to give yourself a break from your manuscript right after you finish that first draft, because you want to go back and look at it with fresh eyes. So, you know, we're so close to our manuscripts that we don't see all of the flaws. And a lot of times that does come with practice, because I've heard some writers say that they don't know how to, you know, they don't know what they need to fix. So one of the things is that it does come with practice, and definitely in like beta reader rounds and stuff, they kind of will help you point things out, things that you didn't realize. So then you can keep that in mind for your own edits in the future. But in any case, like it's good to take that step away, because it can help you give perspective on the things that you can improve on. But the thing that you need to realize is that there will be a ton of things that you need to work on, because no first draft is perfect. No second draft is perfect. There are always things that need to be fixed. So you always have to give yourself grace with that. That's normal. And that's why, you know, even, you know, whether you're traditionally or self-published, you have to go through these stages. Everyone has to go through these stages of edits, whether you have an agent, whether you're going to self-publish, everyone goes through these stages. So let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so the developmental edits includes looking at your manuscript's characters, setting, plot, dialogue, point of view, and a lot more. So we'll kind of go into specifics later. And so one of the things that I recommend, so way back when I used to say, oh, you should take a month off. Like I always felt like I would always recommend that people take a month off between the first draft and revising it. But my good friend Savannah, who is here right now, the manuscript that she wrote for NaNoWriMo, she only gave herself like a week or two, maybe not even, I can't remember. She was crazy and didn't give herself a lot of time before diving back into edits. Though she is self-published, she is more experienced. So that could play a part in it too, where you don't need as much time. But a month is a long time if you are looking to self-publish or traditionally publish, because both routes can take a long time. So now I tell people like at least 2 weeks, because that kind of gives you a breath of fresh air. And it also helps prevent you from getting burnt out, because some people, especially if you're like trying to bust out that draft for NaNoWriMo, you are writing and giving all of your time to working on the manuscript. And so when you're done, you're tired, and to just jump right back into edits is really kind of daunting and exhausting. So to give yourself at least 2 weeks, I feel like is a really good break as well. So okay, let me look in the comments here, because I know I'm just talking. Oh, Becca says she's on draft 2 million, whatever. Yes, I haven't come out with too many videos about my querying, but I have had many final query letter, final query letter, final query letter 2020, revised query. Like it's just like, you guys, I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I keep editing it. So it's kind of like with manuscripts too. You're like, okay, draft 10, whatever. Okay, let's see. I blank page. Oh, I got a blank page. I blank page. Oh, I always wait at least a month before rereading. Yes, so I like to kind of take a little bit longer, because for me, I feel like it helps with my burnout. But probably like maybe week 3 is a good compromise then for me. And then Zara waits like 1 or 2 weeks. Yes, more time is better, definitely. Shankurti 6 months. I feel like that's a long time, especially if you're looking to like traditionally publish. I guess I'm not sure exactly what the timeline is from when you hand in your manuscript to your agent and then when they give that back to you, but I feel like it's a little bit faster. So, and whether you want to self or traditionally publish, you want to give yourself a little less time. So, and so that things aren't like, you don't have to like refamiliarize yourself with your manuscript because now it's been too long and you don't even know what you need to change. You don't have any ideas down for that. Oh, and then Savannah says, my secret was the Save the Cat outlining method. Yes, exactly. She outlined so well that revising went faster because it was like, oh, I don't have as much developmental edits to do. So yes, that is a perk. Save the Cat will make a cameo later. Okay, Shankurti's going traditional. Okay, yes. So definitely, you know, maybe think about going for like a month then and seeing, since you usually go for longer. Okay. All right. So now we're going to dive into editing your characters. Yay, so much about the characters. So I kind of have a couple questions and things that you can look at to address when you're looking at your characters. So this is definitely a developmental edit, big picture thing. So you want to ask yourself, does each main character have an internal and external arc? So that kind of ties into Save the Cat a little bit. They call it like the A and B story, but they should be really weaved together and affect each other throughout the story. So things that are kind of happening externally, like happening to the character, that should be affecting how the character's feeling and what the character is going through inside. And that's going to help with their arc and their growth over time. And you also, so with that arc, you also want to know if your character has a positive, negative, or flat arc, because you want to make sure that throughout the story, your character is reflecting that. So with a positive arc, like the main character usually has like a flaw, and then as they go through the story, they learn to work through that flaw and break through, and at the end, they overcome that flaw. And that's kind of where the internal and external arc kind of weaves together. Now with a negative arc, it's the opposite. So that would be like I don't know, friends to enemies, could be an antagonist that is, you know, they start off good and then they turn to the bad side. And so you want to see that progression, then the character is better and then they go along that negative arc. And then I don't see too many stories with a flat arc. I actually have a character with a flat arc in Abargo's Riddle, my current manuscript, where they don't change at all. So it's really interesting, but it works for that specific character for a certain reason, which I can't say because it's kind of spoilery, but yeah, like it's just the character is the same the whole time. They don't change. But for the most part, your main character, especially your protagonist, is going to go through a positive arc. Okay, Jasmine saying she's struggling with her characters. Yes, and yes, head hopping, yes. I actually just added that like right beforehand. Like I was like, okay, I completely covered everything. Then all of a sudden head hopping popped into my head and I'm like, oh, head hopping, that's perfect. Actually, sorry, I'm jumping ahead because Angela had mentioned that, but with the head hopping, that was actually something that I was not looking for in my manuscript. And it was beta readers, when I sent them that second draft that I had edited, they caught my head hopping and I didn't even know I was doing that. So now I include that in my edits and I know to look for that. And also when I'm writing, I make sure that I'm staying in that one character's head the whole time. So it helps me, the editing has helped me with the writing. But also I didn't know that the first time around. So it's totally okay to go through like another round of developmental edits, or like 2 rounds of line edits if you're, you know, if you're new to that and you're still trying to learn and you're picking things up as you go, that's totally okay. You don't have to be like, well, I already did my developmental edit, I can't change these big things anymore. So let's see. Oh, and then Alicia asks, do you find that the flat characters are often minor characters? Not necessarily. See, I wish I had some examples. I need to find some examples of flat characters. If you guys have any examples of flat characters, please post them in the comments. But at least my character, he's a main character, but it's, I guess he, how do I word this? This is really hard to word. The people that have read this story are like, how do I describe this? I guess it would be like, for example, think about like, well, I know Alicia's religious, but think about like God. He's just God. He doesn't have a positive arc. He doesn't have a negative arc. He's just the same. He's just awesome the whole time. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good example, but that's the first thing that popped into my head. Okay. So then next, you want to think about, does each of your main characters have a backstory that drives their motivations? So this kind of ties into the second part, which is ensuring that every character has a GMC, a goal, motivation, and conflict. So in thinking about your character's backstory, like when you're starting that first page, that first chapter, you're not starting from the past. Ideally, you're not starting from the past with like a prologue with heavy backstory that's info dumping. Like you're jumping right into the middle of some action. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like a fighting scene or something, you know, but just something that has high tension or excitement to draw the reader in. And if, you know, so you're not going to be talking about a character's backstory, but when that character is first introduced, they're very rich already and they have this whole history. So you want that to kind of come across on the page, especially in that first chapter. But that's going to kind of drive them across their arc. Now with the goal, motivation, and conflict, I actually give these to even the minor characters. I got this tip from Victoria Schwab because she doesn't do her whole like eye color, you know, Myers-Briggs, favorite food, all of that, which is totally fun to do, but she just makes sure that every character has a goal, motivation, and conflict. So even this shopkeeper that is obviously a side character, you know, like a minor character that is, you know, not a big part of the story, they have their own goal, motivation, and conflict. And it kind of ties into when people say like every character is the main character of their own story. So you want even the side characters to be rich as well, because they are affecting their story. They're there for a reason. So I like to give GMCs to everyone. So with that goal, do I have an example here? Let me see. Oh no, I don't have an example. But so okay, so let me use an example here for like this retreat or something for this presentation. So my goal is to be able to share all of my editing tips with all of you. My motivation is that I can connect with other writers and help them with their manuscripts, because in my head, I enjoy helping people. It makes me feel good. So my motivation is, my goal is to help you, but it makes me feel good by helping people. And the conflict would be if, you know, my internet like cuts out or no one shows up. So that's an example there. Hopefully that is a little bit clear. Let me look into the comments really quick. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize my throat was going to be like, I hate you. Okay. Yes. Oh, okay, good. Ryan says a mentor type character can be flat. They aren't supposed to grow. They're only there to help the characters grow. Yes, Ryan, great. Oh, I love this so much. Yes, Professor McGonagall is a great example. Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much. This is awesome. And then Shankirti says, I see some Disney movies start out with flashbacks to better establish the characters. Why is that? Yes, I see that too. It's the quick and easy way. It's a little bit harder because with like movies, you can't really get as much into their internal monologue. And it's kind of more of like a time thing. Like they don't have as much time to like show it, I guess. So they kind of just like show it by this flashback. So it's kind of a quick and easy way. Oh, I am clearly behind in the comments on I didn't want to open up the YouTube video because I don't want to slow down my computer, but yes, Kimberly just answered that. Awesome. All right, so, okay, and this has been a big one that I have learned this year is, does each character have a unique voice and distinct dialogue? So when I was first starting out writing my very first novel many years ago, well, that was 2015. It feels like forever ago, but like when I heard like characters need their, their own voice. So then I just like threw in, one of my characters would say like, hey, or heyo, or something like that. And like, that was me giving them a distinction, was them just saying like, heyo, like once in a while, which was like really horrible. But I did have one character who had a very like specific accent that I just like made up for him because he came from another world. Gosh, and it's been so long, I can barely even remember how he spoke, but he like would it was kind of more clipped, and it was kind of more shorthand, like contractions and things like that, with like words that shouldn't be contracted. But I learned over time that like, it doesn't even have to be something that is super like, not super like, oh, they need an accent or they need this like catchphrase, which those are okay to use, but you want that character's dialogue to come across as differently from another character, even if like, oh, they're both teenage boys, but they sound different in their own way based on their experiences, based on their backstory, their personalities, all of that. I do have a character voice series kind of talking about that, but there's so much more to go about character voice, but you at least want to look into voice and dialogue, making sure that they sound differently. This is huge for both readers and literary agents. So, okay, let's see. Yes, and then Scribbling Cat makes a good point. Tenzin is a mentor, but he grows over the course of the story. So, but then he also could have been someone who maybe he would have fallen apart and wouldn't have been there for like Aang or not Tenzin, Legend of Korra. Sorry, I'm getting my I'm thinking about Eero, so I'm getting my Avatar series wrong, but in any case, he could have gone the opposite way. So it really just depends on where you want to take the story. But yeah, that's true. And then Zoe has a good example. Frodo, his goal is to destroy the ring. His motivation is to save the Shire from destruction, and the conflict is the ring's influence over him. Awesome. This is a great one, Zoe. I love this one so much. Yes. And then Kimberly asks, can anyone name a book to movie adaptation that didn't start with narration from the main character? Ooh, I'd have to think about that. Okay, then next you want to, when looking at your characters, you also want to look at whether you can omit a character or combine two characters into one. So you want to look and see, is one character not really contributing to the plot? Maybe their role is too similar to another character, or maybe you have too many characters, which makes like telling them all apart very confusing. So this is something that like, yeah, a lot of people don't really think about, and I think it's a little bit rarer, but it's still something that can happen. It's literally killing your darlings by like literally just shopping a character. I have done that before. In my first manuscript, but it made it stronger and tighter, because then if you're giving, okay, I'm cutting this character and giving these specific scenes and roles to the character that I already have, then you're strengthening that one character. So you can look at it that way too, about strengthening like a character that you think might be a little bit weak, or you don't really know their goals or motivations or something. So you can look at that. Okay, then also with your characters, you want to avoid cliche characters. So having a dumb jock or an outcast nerd, or Mary Sue's. So characters that are perfect and have no flaws, which we already know our characters need flaws, no matter what arc they're going through. So that's really important too, because cliches are a big thing that like people are like, you know, they can be like over it, you know, and if they're like, you know, people have a strong thing with like love triangles. Oh, I don't want to read books that love triangles. Oh, I want to read books with love triangles. So people are like that too with like cliche characters. And then lastly, we talked about the head hopping or inconsistent point of view. So you just want to make sure that the lens that you're writing from is from that one character and stays there the whole scene. So even if you have like multi POV, make sure that at least that one scene or chapter that is from that one character, it's only in that one character's point of view. So you're not writing about something that's happening behind the character because that character can't see it. But if they turn around, then they would see it. So things like that. And then also I did have a bonus one about like your beta readers will catch it too, but you can ask your beta readers, you know, is your main character likable? Are they relatable? So that's something that's hard for you to kind of do yourself in your developmental edits, but when you're getting beta feedback more developmentally, then you can ask them that too. Be like, you want to make sure that your characters are likable, or they love to hate them as well. Okay. And yes, Ryan and Zara are talking about cinema sins. That's amazing. That's a really fun YouTube channel, talking about like, oh, the sins that this movie did. Okay, so next up, any questions about editing characters? I feel like, what's it called? We touched on a lot of things. So sorry for guys bombarding you with a lot of things. Oh my goodness, I need to move much faster. I was like, this will at least be 32 minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta hurry. I'm going extremely slowly. And I should have asked you guys this before. But anyways, while you guys are asking questions about like, if you have any questions about the editing characters, I'm gonna move on just so I'm not like so long with this. Okay, so then with developmental edits, once you get the characters down, you also want to look at the setting. So things you want to look at, have you described the setting enough to avoid white room syndrome, or talking head syndrome is another way of saying it. So what you want to do is not just have long stretches of dialogue where the characters aren't doing anything, they're not interacting with the environment, they're not like moving around other characters, nothing's happening with the weather or their surroundings, they're not interacting with objects. So that's why they call it like talking head syndrome, because all you see are two heads talking. Or it's a white room, like literally they could be in a white room and you wouldn't know because you didn't describe anything about the room. Okay, let me pull up some of these questions here now that they're up. So the dawdling writer asks, if you accidentally keep changing a character's name, how do you decide which name to go with? Oh, wait, what do you mean by accidentally? Like you don't know like which name is better? I would, so yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're, like if you accidentally change it, but I guess like if you just aren't sure which name you'd rather have, I'd probably just stick to one name. And then, so if you have like alpha readers or critique partners, you could ask them like, hey, which name is best for this character? Which name do you like more? Another thing to look at when you're looking at your character names, because there have been some names that I love, but I've changed them because I've had too many names start with the same letter, or too many names sound similar, like they all end in like Lee or something. So I try to think about that too. So kind of put all your names and be like, oh, I've got like 5 characters introduced in the first, 2 chapters that all start with the name with the letter B. Okay, I should change one of them. So that can kind of give you a little bit of insight too. I hope that's what you were talking about. Oh, here we go. Aubric turned into Audric, turned into Albric. Okay, I like all those. I mean, I feel like it's just your preference which one you like more. But if you can't decide, I would just choose one and then ask either your critique partners, or when you go into the beta reader round, ask them if they like the names and maybe mention the other ones and say, like, do you feel like these would be a better fit? And then Sarah asks, your series on character voice, is it on YouTube? Yes, it is. It's on my YouTube channel. I think I have a characters playlist, but it's how to write character voice. I have a part 1 and 2. And then I also will be coming out with a part 3 at the end of the month. So I've been coming out with like 1 a month. And people have been really enjoying those. And I've really been liking talking about it because it's just something that I've realized that's been really helping me strengthen my manuscript. And I think that helps you stand out from other writers when you have character voice. Because if you see that, you'll notice that a lot of like agents and readers will specifically mention that. Oh, so, oops, jumped. I was going to do this one. Okay, good. Keelan says, I've got plenty of time. We're on a break after this. Okay. I don't want to hold people hostage, though, by taking forever, but good to know that I have some time. Okay. All right. Shankurti asks, character-driven stories are really for me, and internal conflict is essential. What can I do to avoid melodrama? Great question. I love character-driven stories. Those are my jam. Characters are my favorite thing to plot and outline. And the internal conflict is a big thing too. So with melodrama, it's all about finding that balance. So just like with dialogue, you wouldn't have just tons of dialogue without describing the setting. You also want to find that balance of weaving in internal monologue, which I'm assuming that's what you mean by the melodrama, because it's that internal conflict. So the character is self-reflecting on things. So that's my advice to you, is to find that balance between, okay, maybe there's some, you're describing something and then you go into some characters talking, and then maybe based on what one of the characters said, then your main character goes into some internal monologue for a little bit, then they snap back, start talking to the character again. There's an action or description of something, and then, kind of going along those lines. But also in that case too, if you know of a character-driven story that you really enjoy, like one of your favorite, like think about one of your favorite novels and like read that novel, first chapter or whatever, and see how they do that. Make it like a study, like a study session or like a learning experience where you see how they did it. That's another tip where I've rewritten a first chapter of a published book. It was actually Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Right? No, is that her name? Oh my God, I'm like totally blanking on her name right now. Yeah, that's her name. Okay, sorry you guys. But it will help you because you'll kind of see how they flow. Because when I was typing, so I was just literally reading what she wrote and typing it myself, and I was like, oh my goodness, I totally wouldn't have gone into this much description here, or I wouldn't have described it in that way and used those words, or I would have jumped into dialogue much sooner. So it's like you can kind of use these published books as a way to learn. So sorry if that was a very long-winded answer to your question. Okay, thanks, Heather. Yes, that's her name. Yeah, I'm like, I was thinking because of Twilight, I was starting to think of Stephenie Meyer. So I was like, wait, am I getting it confused? Okay, T.A. Beasley asks, when is the best time to describe what your character looks like? Should it be when you first introduce them in the story, or when there's interaction with another character? Yes, great question. So what I recommend and what I have seen in novels and what I like to do myself is not describe everything about the character right away, because especially in that first chapter, you just want to get your reader interested in the story and just diving into it. So when you're describing the character too much, it's kind of similar to info dumping in a way where you're kind of stalling the action and the progress because you're at a standstill when you talk about the characters. Oh, okay. I heard a squeal and I thought it was Zuko. Okay. But yes, so you definitely don't want to just, which I have seen in published books, but if you're debuting or if you're like a newer author, like you kind of have to prove yourself before you can do this. Because I remember I learned that like, oh, don't give a laundry list of the character where you're literally saying their hair, their eye color, what they're wearing, their build. And then I like went and read a book by Rick Riordan and he literally did that. And I was like, hey, he did that. I can't do that, but he's Rick Riordan, so he can do that. I am not published yet, so I can't do that. But so how I recommend doing it is to weave it in. So I have changed this scene, but an old first chapter version of the Celestial Code, my main character was running. And so then I had or she like turned and ran. And then I said that her like blonde hair, like, or her ponytail, like, or her, yeah, I said something about like her blonde hair skimming her shoulders as she turned, or like in her ponytail or something. So it kind of gave you an idea of like how long her hair was, that it was up, but I involved action with it. And so then you can even have it where the person is, maybe they're interacting with their mom and they're like, oh, she's, you know, I noticed how petite she was like me, or something like that. So you can use your character describing other characters to describe your character. But you definitely don't want to do like the whole looking in a mirror thing. Yeah, no mirror thing or info dumping. So hopefully that was helpful. Let's see. Oh, I just have to shout out hello, fellow writing weirdos. Hello, BC Brown Books. Yes, welcome. Oh, Ryan has a good point too. Hey, Blondie. Hey, oh, she has blonde hair. Yes, I like that. I like saying that too. So yeah, kind of using the other characters too to describe the character. Okay, and then Kimberly asked, do I have to describe my characters? Can I just leave that to my reader to fill in? Yes, and I've seen a lot of writers do that now, where they don't really describe too much about the characters and you can fill in the blanks. So I think that's totally fine too, because I think people like to have their own idea of the characters inside their heads. You know, maybe giving them a little bit of a clue as to, you know, what they look like, especially because sometimes character descriptions, they are important to the story. So, you know, for example, there's something about Sweetie by Sanja Menon. It's dual POV, contemporary romance, and the female MC, she is overweight. So she couldn't not describe that the character was overweight, or have the male character not, you know, like, see she's beautiful, but then other characters comment about her weight. Well, if you didn't describe the character in that way, that defeats a lot of the purpose of the story, like the theme and a lot of the plot. So in a way, sometimes you need it. So it just depends on whether it's important to the story, but I say it's up to you too. And at least for me, because I like to include diversity in my stories, I like to describe, you know, different builds, different body shapes, skin colors, just because I want people to know that there's that inclusion there and that they can see themselves in my books too. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Okay. Okay, I blank page. Yeah, okay. I think it is also preference too. You know, if you're gonna go the traditionally published route, your agent will tell you, you know, whether your agent will tell you like, hey, beef up this description more, or your editor will. And if you're self-publishing, and you when you hire an editor, because that's what everyone should do, is hire an editor if you're self-publishing, they might bring that up to you. But I think it's also preference. You also have to think about too, are all of your beta readers saying that, or are just 2 of like your 10? Then you can kind of take it you know, with a grain of salt, but ultimately it's up to you because you're the master of your story. So. And Brittany says, I try to focus on sharing character descriptions that help tell more about who the character is. Yes, exactly. Perfect. Awesome. Well, those were great questions, you guys. Okay, so sorry we had all those great questions about the characters, but so now I'm going back to the setting. Sorry, you guys, about avoiding the white room syndrome and talking head syndrome. Ooh, actually, I am going to shout out iWriterly because she just came out with an awesome video about including all 5 senses with Sasha Black. I believe that's her name. Great video about using all 5 senses. I was really impressed. And so I don't share videos on Twitter too often, like right after I watch a YouTube video, but I did that for that one. I was like, oh, everyone should watch that. So if you have not seen it, go check out iWriterly with the 5 senses because that was super helpful. But you know, most of the time when you're writing, and so it's totally okay in that first draft, like you're kind of thinking about what your character is seeing and not necessarily all of the other senses. So you're probably going to have a lot of sight, also sound, because like people hear characters talking, they hear a boom or a crash or something. But you want to think about the other senses, taste, touch, and smell. And so they go really into depth about different ways to incorporate that, which I loved. One of the things that I haven't implemented yet in making sure that I'm incorporating all the 5 senses, because this was beta feedback that I have not gotten to implement since I am rewriting a Bargo's Riddle, but with the previous draft that I had received feedback on, my beta reader had told me, had suggested that I print out my manuscript, which you can do it in Word too, but I am a paper person, so I would probably actually print it out. But I don't know if you could do it on the Kindle app too, like highlight the different colors. I think you can. But you would highlight the 5 senses throughout your whole manuscript and give a different color for each sense. So you can see where you're lacking. You're like, oh, I literally have like 2 instances of taste throughout the whole manuscript. So then you can know to kind of weave those in obviously appropriate places. I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna have my character randomly eat an apple. But like one of the examples in iWriterly was like there was smoke, and so they tasted the smoke or something like that. But then you can also smell the smoke and see the smoke. So you can include many senses with just one thing, smoke, but there's 3 senses right there. And then maybe you, I don't know, touch, you swirl it around, I don't know. You could do everything. But yeah, and then, or you can see, oh, there's long stretches without any description at all. So this is kind of more line edity, I would say, but it can still be helpful in the developmental stage with fleshing out your world, because it can help you with, oh, if you're like, if it's a fantasy or something and they just go into the new world, well, you can enrich the world building by having sounds of like, you know, bells. Oh, there's this, you know, festival going on, or, you know, just anything that can help enrich the world building. I think that would be helpful. Okay, let's see. Keelan says Holly Black writes beautiful descriptions. Awesome. Ryan, white room syndrome is the bane of my writer existence. Oh, you guys are great. Oh. And yes, BC Brown, the important thing to remember about white room syndrome is that it isn't lopsided with only 2 of the 5 senses. Yes, exactly. In case of doubt, lick your enemy. Oh my God, that's the best thing ever. Amazing. I love it. Oh, Danya said she watched it and it was great. Yes. iWriterly video. Yes. Awesome. So glad you watched it. Okay. And then, so this kind of goes more along the lines of world building. Are there any aspects you need to clarify for the setting? So, and you want to think about too, like, even if you're, not writing fantasy and sci-fi, you still have world building to do. What era? Are you in the 90s? Are you in the present day? Are you in the 80s? That's going to affect a lot of the technology, the lingo, what the characters are wearing, lots of stuff. So you still want to include world building, even if you're writing like a contemporary or a mystery or whatever. But you want to think about the wildlife and creatures, the weather, the unique features. So like the magic system, if you have fantasy, and then everyday life. So thinking about even greetings and currencies. So like in the Celestial Code, there's different greetings. They don't give handshakes like they do on Earth, and they have different currency because they're not going to have George Washington on their money because they're, you know, in another world in space. So you want to think about that. And I just am so just impressed with J.K. Rowling, because she is the perfect example of that world building that is literally weaved into everything. Like if you think about like Birdie Bot's every flavor beans, and you know, like everything from down to the food and the city and the bank, and everything is like, she like created everything. So that's why they're able to have a whole amusement park, because she created this whole world that it was real. So you can be specific. Like don't be afraid of being specific, because it can help you, the readers, get more connected to the characters. And then yes, are you rural, urban, big city? Yes, also good. Hi, Bury Bad Books. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where people are. Okay. All right, and then diving more into the world building aspects, so many things to keep in mind: culture, laws, religion, education, jobs, skills, internal and external conflicts, magic system, and technology. So that kind of goes into being specific. So yes. Heather says specificity, yes. Okay, now do you guys have any questions about the setting? Any questions? I need to like ask this sooner. But yeah, I think you guys can have fun with it too. And that also helps with the white room syndrome, because you're describing that, you know, FM radio or whatever. So. Okay, so while questions are coming in, I'm going to move on to the last part of the developmental edits, which is the plot. And then if you guys have any questions for the plot as it comes in, just go ahead and put them in the comments, since I'm kind of like stopping to answer them as we go along. So, okay, so plot is, even if your novels are character driven, I mean, plot is the meat of the story. If you just have characters but they're not doing anything, obviously you wouldn't have a story. So things to consider when you're developmentally editing the plot is, does each scene have a purpose that drives the story forward? So this is often the time when we must kill our darlings. So sometimes we love a line, a character, a scene, an interaction, but it does nothing to move the plot forward. It's just fluff. It's like you love it, but it's not really doing anything. And so it has to be cut. Now, in order to make it a little less, you know, difficult to cut out whatever you decide to cut out because it's not serving a purpose, it's not moving the plot forward, you can always save those scenes that you delete, because you never know when you're going to come back to them, when you might use it either for a later scene or another manuscript. I know I had some scenes in the Celestial Code where I was like, I love the witty banter. Like I was there for the witty banter. I was just like, I need this. But I'm like, okay, these characters are still going to be, you know, interacting in the series in the future. They will probably be able to have this witty banter in the future. Or also, I forget who it was. It was a traditionally published author. I'm trying to think, one of the AuthorTube videos I watched recently, but they had said that they had omitted a scene and then ended up, or no, I think they like didn't have a scene, they added it back in and then they took it out, and then like for the final draft they ended up putting it back in because like they took it out and then their like editor was like, oh, we want this, and she's like, oh, I had that but I took it out, so then she put it back in. But if she didn't say that, she wouldn't have she would have had to do it all over again, which is also good, okay too, if you have to completely rewrite it. But it's nice if you already have that already there. Obviously less work to do is better. Okay, we've got some questions coming in for a setting. JC asked, how specific do you have to be in the setting if you're creating a fictional town that's in a real state? Yes. Uh-oh. She might need to potty. I let her out in the yard, but she didn't go. So she might want to go for a walk. Kyrie making a cameo. Fur mom problems. I knew that was going to happen. I was like, I let you out and I know you're going to beg for me to go out to the bathroom. All right. Sorry about that, JC. So I have noticed with specifically, I'm thinking about like Adam Silvera with his books, his contemporary romances, that he didn't describe the setting too much because it was, like New York or somewhere in California or something. So I think that that's okay if you're not, like, obviously, like, we know what a door looks like, we know what a bedroom looks like, but like, okay, so is your character in a huge like mansion type bedroom, or is it like very, very tiny because they're in like a 1-bedroom, or like a what are those, like a studio apartment in New York because they're trying to make it big, like on Broadway or something like that. Sorry if these are horrible examples, you guys. But so in describing the setting, you're not describing, oh, like the bed has this, blanket on it or something, but you're saying like the size of it, and that's helping develop the character because you're getting a sense of who they are through like what they have. So hopefully that helps. But, or if your characters are going for a walk in a park, it's just like, okay, you're just kind of describing it as they go, but you don't have to get like super in depth because, but maybe is there a fountain? Are they going to the fountain? Because that's going to be where their first kiss is, things like that. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Bury Bad Books asks, or Barry, sorry, I said Bury. I don't know why I said Bury. Bury Bad Books, I love that. What's the difference between over-explaining a setting via sci-fi versus specificity of fantasy that people can connect to? Yes, so there is a balance. I think your beta readers and critique partners will help you see that because, and you'll notice it too, they kind of mention it in the 5 settings video on iWriterly, and I'm sure there's I don't know who else has like kind of setting videos on AuthorTube, but you don't want to. So what she had said was like, oh, when you're describing all of these senses, like she had like a quite a few sentences in the paragraph. It was a pretty chunky paragraph. So she's like, well, I'm not gonna follow up that paragraph with more description because I've already been describing so much. I would probably follow this up with dialogue. So that's kind of a good point, is realizing that you want those checks and balances. So you don't want to be describing like every single thing all at once, like kind of like a word vomit type thing. If you're having that deep point of view and going from your character's eyes, they're not going to be seeing and experiencing everything all at once anyway, so you shouldn't be describing everything. So when you're describing it, to make it not over the top but still being specific, is having it be with that point of view. So it's in the moment, they're exploring that world, and they're seeing this and seeing this, and then later on in the scene they're interacting with this character and they get these coins, and or something like that. So so finding that balance where you're like, oh, there's like this whole page is description and now there's dialogue. So hopefully that helps. I keep saying hopefully that helps because I don't know. I'm on the other side here, you guys. Whew, I've cut the last 100 pages. Whoa. Yeah, whatever you need. Yes. Triple B. Oh, BBB. I love it. Duly noted. And yes, yes, editing hell. I love editing. I miss my editing. Alley Cat asks or says, there are side characters that I have that I've been wanting to put in, but don't know where to put them in. How do you know when to add side characters to some scenes and how to make sure they, oh, okay, yes. I've got to wait for the next question to, or the next comment to pop up. Done, you StreamYard. So have you already finished this story? And you're wanting to you're doing a developmental edit and feel like you need to add more to the plot, which involves these side characters. Make sure they aren't a burden or filler in to slow down the book. I don't know how to say this. Oh, no worries. I'm just trying to get exactly what you're asking to figure that out. Trying to add side characters. I mean, like, are those side characters doing things that the other main characters in that scene can't do? So you have to look at that. Like, what are these side characters doing? Are they going to have like other cameos, or are they just like a one character type thing where they don't even have a name? They're just there and then they leave. I think it also depends on the scene too. So, you know, your character could be at a bar or something, and then you realize, oh wait, I didn't describe anything about the bar. Like, so then you start talking about how there's noise from the other people talking next to them. The bartender comes over and asks them if they want anything else. So I don't know if you're thinking about like a very minor character like that, where they just kind of come in and leave, or someone that's affecting more of the plot. And no, we're almost to the secret word, Zara. Yes, almost there. Ryan asks, I think you have, oh my goodness, I've gone an hour. Oh my goodness, you guys. Okay, I need to hurry. I think you have to think about how well a reader would relate to the location. Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. Tell the reader how the sci-fi park is different from a normal park. Perfect. Alley Cat's editing right now. I'm kind of out. I've kind of out them in, but they're mostly support characters. They're friends of one of the main characters. Okay, it seems like then they would be somewhat important. I would give them goals, motivations, and conflicts, and then see their importance. And if you're having a hard time giving them a goal, motivation, and conflict, then maybe they don't need to be there. Because if you have a couple friends, maybe you can just have like one or two instead of like the 3 or 4 you were thinking of. So think about that. Yeah, give them a goal, motivation, and conflict, and see if you can even think of something for them. All right, you guys, I will keep trucking on with the plot. So the next question that you want to ask with the scenes and the chapters, checking for their pacing, is, does the story move too fast or too slow? So I recommend using Save the Cat. Oh, I talk about it at the bottom, but this is big for story structure, pacing, all of that. It ensures that you hit all of the beats of the story. So Save the Cat writes a novel by Jessica Brody. I'm sure you guys have heard that all over AuthorTube, but it really is a game changer. That's how Savannah got to edit her novel so quickly after finishing the first draft. But it follows a 15-beat template, and that kind of follows the 3-act structure. So that really helps. It ensures that you hit all the beats at the estimated story percentage for proper pacing. So it's like, oh, before the, around the 10% mark, you should have already had your inciting incident. So if you have your inciting incident at like 1%, well, that was maybe a little bit too soon. If you have it at 20% and things are going a little bit slowly, you need to pick up the pace. So it can kind of help you with structuring out your story and the pacing. And then also with integrating the internal and external arcs and character development and all of that. You also want to ensure you have enough tension and conflict that drives the plot forward. So that's going to help your reader keep reading if it's too boring. And so like one of the things also that beta reader who told me about the highlighting the 5 senses also told me she had like a graph of like, this was a high tension chapter, this was a low tension chapter. And so that kind of follows the 3-act structure too, where like obviously the climax is the climax for a reason because that's the highest tension point, and then it goes down after that with the resolution. So kind of making sure you're following along that track. And then you want to check for any plot holes or things that contradict each other, like, oh, I said that my character, hates, people, but now they're making friends with everyone in like the first chapter. So that's a really bad example, but something like that. Okay, let's see. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. Oh, okay, we're almost on to the secret word after the end of the developmental edits, which we're almost done with. And then Alley Cat, it's tricky too since some of them were originally some main characters, but I felt they needed to be side characters. Maybe I can have them help the main character somehow. Yes, exactly. That would be perfect. Good troubleshooting. Okay, and then I kind of have a miscellaneous section. So like I said before, you want to avoid info dumping, scenes that have too much information, aka telling. So you want to show these things. This character, oh, I see Chris walking Kyrie. Oh, that's so cute. They're hi guys. Oh. So you want to ensure that like, okay, if this character, is going through their things in their room and they stumble upon this journal that, their dad wrote or something, and then that sparks some memories. So that can that can show a little bit of backstory or, without like info dumping because it's kind of tied to what's happening. So things like that. Ensure your dialogue is believable and that you have a good balance with the dialogue, description, exposition, and internal monologue. So that's what I was talking about before, not having too much, too many blocks of just one thing. And then ensuring that consistent point of view. So whether you're in first person or third person, past or present, tense, and then omniscient or limited point of view. Also making sure that your story's timeline makes sense. So not like, oh, everything, the whole story, 300 and however many pages happened in like 2 days. Well, I mean, actually that's something that could happen because in All Your Twisted Secrets by Diana Urban, it was in 24 hours, but there were flashbacks to previous months. But, you at least in what happened in the plot, it was believable that it was in 24 hours because there wasn't like all these things that happened, like, okay, they like ate breakfast 5 times or something like that. And then at the end of your novel, does anything feel unresolved? Do you have questions at the end? And of course, it depends if you're planning a sequel or not. If you are leaving things open-ended, like you're purposefully leaving people hanging. All right. Okay, we are going on to the secret word. So like I said, you guys, you want to collect the secret word, as many secret words as you can in each session. So make sure you write this down. And at the end of the day, you can fill out the feedback form and you'll be entered into a drawing to win one of 4 $15 Amazon gift cards. And so the more secret words you collect, the more the better chances you have at winning, and then winners will be announced at the end of May. So the secret word, drumroll please, is word nerds. So yay for that. So make sure you write it down, you guys. Okay, I need to like fly through the line editing part because I took so long with the developmental edits. Oh my goodness. I was not expecting to take forever in a day. Okay, I will also put it in here. Secret word is word nerds. Okay. All right, so next we're going to go into line editing. So you always want to do line editing after your developmental edits and after your beta reader rounds. So your beta readers are going to read that draft that you just developmentally edited and helps you ensure that you made all of the big picture changes that you needed to make. And then after the fact, then you can either go through another developmental round if you feel like you need that, or you can go right into line editing. So this is really your chance where you can refine your manuscript and make it shine. So line edits are exactly as they sound. You go line by line, word by word, and you tighten up your writing. It addresses like the writing style, the language use at a sentence and paragraph level. It's not really to like comb through errors like you would for a future edit, but it's focusing on like the language you use, the words you're using, the emotions and the tone that you're conveying. And let's see, yes, and it also helps make sure that you're not, you know, giving cliches in your writing. Okay, so Sarah asks, when do you do beta rounds? And how do you find them? So with beta reader rounds, you typically want to do them after your own edit. So after that first draft, you and people do this differently too. Like I don't know if Jessie Elliott is still here, but she does not, she used to do beta reader rounds and she doesn't anymore. She just gets feedback from her critique partners and then, and she's self-published. So she's kind of found what works for her. So, you know, you want to find what works best for you, but this is kind of the typical route that many writers go through. Is so you have the first draft, you edit it developmentally, then you send that second draft to beta readers so that they can give you big picture feedback. And then once you implement their feedback, you can then go through another beta reader round, or you can go through the line edits. And now usually with line edits, you can go one of two ways. You can either do those line edits and then just be done, have your critique partners look at it, or actually go through a beta reader round where your beta readers are doing line edits. Line edits are pretty lengthy and time consuming. So most people don't go through the beta reader rounds for line edits. Mostly it's developmental. Oh, and then how to find them. Writing community is so huge. There are some Facebook groups. You do have to be careful with finding people that you can trust. But I have found people on the NaNoWriMo forums. I found people through Instagram, YouTube. I think, I don't know if I have a video about it. I might have a video about where to find beta readers. If not, I know that I'm pretty sure that there are other AuthorTubers who have videos on where to find them. Just like, oh my gosh, I've had my people for so long. But usually what I do now is like people that have been following me and that show interest in my manuscript and who I've kind of become friends with naturally through social media. We've been talking about our manuscripts and we see that we're interested, and then we, kind of swap manuscripts. So it kind of works out too. If you're like, oh, will you beta read mine? I'll beta read yours. So it's kind of a good deal there. Okay, so now we're going to go into the quality of line edits. So this is with Show vs. Tell, you can look at that in the developmental stage, but you can also see this in the line editing stage as well. And there is a place for both. So with showing emotions, I recommend using the emotion thesaurus. Do I have it with me? Not right here. But it's really helpful in making sure you're describing what a character is feeling instead of saying that they're feeling, sad or mad. You're not saying that they're mad by telling them. You're showing them by saying their brows are furrowed and their fists are clenched or something like that. And then you want to cut purple prose. And I thought about the other way is that I forgot to put in refining your prose, because there are people that don't have purple prose. I guess I put that because I tend to try to be a little more flowery, but there are people that maybe could beef up their prose a little bit. So either cutting your prose if it's a little flowery or kind of overly poetic where it's over the top, or if you feel like you need to describe things a little bit more, then you can do that as well. This is another kill your darlings moment. So with purple prose, it's kind of like you're describing the same thing multiple times in different ways. And so with line edits, you want to be concise and condense your writing. One of the tips, I believe it was in the Self-Editing for Fiction Writers book, their tip was that you get $1 for every word that you cut from your manuscript, which is like, ooh, yeah, I want money, you know? So that's kind of a way to kind of trick yourself. But that doesn't mean like cutting out all these necessary things, but it means really scrutinizing literally every word to see, does that need to be there? And then, of course, avoiding passive voice. So this example is the book was read by me versus I read the book. I read the book is more active. And then look for sentence structure. So short sentences, you want to look at short sentences for fighting or fast-paced scenes. This might include less dialogue, less internal monologue, or setting description because you're just describing the action. And then think about like longer sentences or more description for slower scenes, which can include a little more internal monologue and setting description. And you also look at including both for like more rhythmic, easily flowing paragraphs. Because if everything is like this and nothing is different, then it's very boring and it sounds monotone. So you want to have like, you don't think about it, but when you read it out, if you read it out loud, you'll really hear that flow and feel like you'll hear if it sounds choppy or awkward. And then you'll also notice this too when you're going through your line edits or reading it out loud, is always starting a sentence with he or she, or repeating a character's name too much. That's something when I was writing recently, I realized that I was like, he did this, he did this, he did this. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to change something. So, you know, adding in an adverb or the character's name kind of helps with that. All right, thanks, Alley Cat. Yes, the stream will be up if you want to watch the rest. And then the other thing you want to do is check to avoid run-on sentences, redundancies from repeating the same information. So that is telling and showing at the same time. So he was mad, he stomped his foot and furrowed his brows. You could just say he stomped his foot and furrowed his brows instead of also adding he was mad, because it's showing that you know that your readers are smart and you don't need to tell them what you just showed them. People can figure it out, so. All right, bye Zara. Oh my gosh, the Blogilates challenge. Yes, I love Cassie Ho. I did not do the ab, or now I think it's the bum challenge, so have not done that. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm sorry this is so long. Please watch the replay because I know I'm, I didn't know that I would go so long. But I'm just going to skip past the question thing. And so just feel free to type in your questions as you see fit, but I'll just kind of keep going. Okay, big part of line edits are crutch and filler words. So this is the nitty gritty of line editing. Like I said, you are going through looking at each word and seeing, is there a purpose to that word? So can you omit a word and the sentence still makes sense? So I have some examples. The baby just cries all day versus the baby cries all day. Same thing, you took out that crutch/filler word just, and it still makes sense. And other examples are you stood up, sat down. Of course, if you sat, you're going to be going down. If you stood, you're going to be standing up. So you don't need to add up or down. Waved, a hand, we know you're waving a hand, unless you're talking about an animal or a sci-fi creature, they might be waving their tail, but typically you're waving your hands. And then squinting, you wouldn't say he squinted his eyes, you would just say he squinted, because you know that that means eyes. So it's seeing what is inferred from that word. Okay, and then, yes, Danya, this will be up later, the live stream. It will be it will be up for replay like right as this video ends, whenever it ends. So it will be up for you to watch later and reference later as well. And then can you replace a word or adverb with a stronger word? So I like to use either wordhippo.com or thesaurus.com. And also I do mention this in the below point 2. You can also use those, but it helps you to find a word that is more specific, that makes your writing richer and more refined. So for example, and it cuts all those adverbs. So instead of saying he ran quickly, say he sprinted. Or Heather had this. Heather told me this example the other day when she was editing her manuscript. She said grew smaller and smaller, and she's like, "That is shrunk, Holly. It shrunk." So this takes a lot of practice because it's less like, you know, you have to really like think about it. It takes a little bit of practice. So. But once you go through it, it becomes kind of fun. You're like, ooh, like, how can I make this better? Like this, it's kind of fun. And then also seeking active verbs and avoiding crutch words. So biggest thing that I did when getting the Celestial Code ready to query was I used writershelpingwriters.com. They have an active verbs list and a crutch words list, which is free to download on their website. So please check those out. Super helpful. They have a huge list of things. So the active verbs list will have a whole bunch of different verbs that you can use to make things more specific. So instead of saying like, because if you described every character that ran as ran, you're going to notice it. It's going to be boring, and it's not going to like enrich the story and immerse your readers in the story. So instead of ran, you could say jogged, sprinted, dashed, skipped. So that it's like there's so many ways that you can describe it, and then it helps gives your reader a visualization of that in their head. Sorry, helps them visualize it. That was faster, right? Because a visualization in their head is the same thing as saying visualize it. So I just line edited my own dialogue. And then an example of the crutch words list is one of the things was with describing emotions. So you're saying like their eyes are always doing something, they're always looking, glaring, you know, their eyes are piercing, they're looking at someone's blue eyes. It's like you start to notice that, and you're like, okay, can you stop talking about the person's eyes? Or their stomach's always churning or flipping, or their heart is pounding. You know, there's so many ways to describe that. Yes, this is a great example is could. Instead of saying she could feel the heat warmed his or her cheeks. Awesome. Yes, great example, Kay. I love that one. So what I like to do is use the search find function in Word to highlight every instance of that word. So I literally go through, and I usually cut and paste each chapter in a different Word document, because the search function could be pretty daunting sometimes. So I usually go by chapter and just go through each chapter with all of the filler words, because then once it gives you a sense of accomplishment too, because once you're done with the going through all of the crutch words, making all of the adverbs, the active verbs stronger, cutting out adverbs if possible, all of that, with that one chapter, you can say you finished that chapter and you can move on to the next chapter and feel like you've accomplished something and reached a goal, and give yourself like, oh, I'll do one chapter a day. Versus if you're line editing the whole manuscript, that's really daunting, you guys, and you don't want to be like, oh, I've got well, I went through eyes, heart, stomach, and hands for the whole manuscript. Okay, and like you don't really like see your progress. So it's motivation that way. Okay. The Dawdling Writer asks, where does eliminating passive voice come in during the edits? Is that developmental or line edits? Yes, so that is, I included that in the line edits part. I believe that was the previous slide. Now, so like some people can't help doing a little bit of line editing during developmental editing. I found that I do light line edits because sometimes I'm afraid that I'm going to miss something. So if I catch something during my developmental edit, I might do a quick edit of it that, even though it's like might be more liney. So if I find an instance of passive voice, if I say, ooh, I just used that word in the previous paragraph, and I might change it, knowing that I'm not doing that for the whole manuscript, that knowing that I'm okay if that paragraph gets cut altogether or if I change it. So so you guys, you know, don't be afraid to, like, it's okay if you want to do a little bit of the line editing too. Just know that, you know, don't spend so much time on it in the developmental stage. That might be cut, so you just wasted your time. But also, if you notice it and it's really bothering you, go ahead and do it. Don't be like, this is the developmental stage, I can't change this. Like, go ahead and change it. It's okay. Okay, so kind of last pass is once you go through all of that, you can read your manuscript out loud. So that's also what I did. Once I went through the line edit of each chapter, I read that chapter out loud. And I still caught some times where I was like, oh, I just said something similar to this. So you may find words that aren't crutch or filler words on the list. And there are lots of lists too, so feel free to use your own, but I like the Writers Helping Writers one. I have added words to that one though. But it there may, oh, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh. Oh goodness, my brain is everywhere. Hold on, let me get a drink of water, you guys. Oh my goodness. Oh, so there may be words that you just use a lot that, like, for you, that's like your own kind of filler word, and it's like a word that you typically use over and over again. So for example, one that I had read a lot was exasperated. That was in, I'm sorry, Cassie Clare fans, but in the first City of Bones. Okay, I obviously only read City of Bones, you guys, sorry. But in City of Bones, I remembered that I was so frustrated because she used the word exasperated so much that I noticed it. And that's not what you want out of your readers, because or what you want out of your book, because it pulls the readers out of the story, because it pulled me out because I kept getting exasperated that she kept using the word exasperated. Or we all know the wonderful line of, they loosed the breath they didn't know they were holding. So even think about phrases that you use often. So you may not catch this in the crutch and filler words where you're looking at that, but when you read it out loud, you can catch things when you repeat yourself. So that's super important. Also helps you find when you're finding awkward sentences or dialogue. Oh, I said that, catch repeated words not on the usual crutch words list. Here we go, Holly. Here I am, like, freaking out, not realizing what I'm saying. Or you can catch repeated actions or inconsistent actions, like someone sat, I almost said sat down, someone sat, and then you describe them walking around without standing again. So kind of things like that. Or they, I don't know, I can't think of another example. But just making sure you have that consistency. And you can also print out your manuscript, put it on your Kindle e-reader. Brittany Wang has a YouTube video about how to put your manuscript on your Kindle e-reader so you can read it if you don't want to print it out and waste the paper. Or you can also listen to it as an audiobook. She also shows you how to do that. And then another way to do that is I use the Voice Reader app for the Android. Now the voice is pretty robotic, but I'm okay with that, and I feel cool. I'm like, I think Brittany Wang also has a video on that, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing my book in like audiobook form. It's awesome. Now, of course, like if you have a fantasy book, they're going to be pronouncing characters wrong, and you know, if you've got like your fantasy words and stuff, but totally okay. Yes. Keelan, I caught that line to the published version of our book. I was mortified. Yes. Actually, I caught that in I caught that in a book I was reading recently, and I was like, oh, they're still talking about the loosed breaths. It's still a thing, you guys. It's okay. It like, if you have it once, it's okay. If you have it twice, I'll be like, Yes, they like go off the breath. They didn't. It's there forever. Oh, I didn't know that there's a text to voice option in Word. What? My mind is blown. I will have to look into that. Cool. Thanks. Text to voice Word option. Awesome. See, I love you guys. I always learn stuff from you guys. And you guys always make me laugh too. I love it. And also, okay, so all of these apps that I am listing are free, which is awesome. So I typically do this after the line edits because I want to make sure every word that is there is what I want to be there. And now I just want to clean things up one last time. So I like to use the Hemingway editor app. There is a desktop version, or I think you can download it as like as an app on the computer. But it looks at, you know, it does look at passive voice. So if you've missed anything, like your adverbs, it counts how many times you use adverbs. So very helpful for that. I also like Pro Writing Aid and Grammarly. I think there is a paid version of Pro Writing Aid, but I just use the free version. But that kind of goes into more line editing stuff too. And then of course, Grammarly ensures that your grammar and spelling are correct, because you don't want this huge blaring spelling or grammar mistake on your first page that your readers or the agents are going to see. You would be mortified. Okay, so, oh, there's Natural Reader, a Chrome extension. Oh, thank you, Amanda. Awesome. Ooh, I'm gonna look in that too. Chrome extension, coolio. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I know this is longer, so I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys are learning a lot. This is really fun. And you guys are helping me out too, which is what I love. Awesome. See, it worked for James. Put the book on his Kindle and had missed some things. I also know Natalia Lee actually prints out the physical copy of her first draft as like a book, which I think is super cool. And I kind of want to do that. Like, instead of just like printing it all out on paper, but like being like, I have a book, and giving yourself like a fake cover. Like, I feel like that would just be really fun. I don't know. Depends how much it is, but that's also an option too. So you guys like are, you know, there's so many possibilities. Yay, and write out loud edits. Erica, that's awesome. Yes. It always like amazes me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't catch that. Cool. Like I was like, whoa. All right, so I did want to touch upon one last thing, or two more edits that happen. So after you do your line edits, next there's copy edits. So this is not done by you. This is done by a professional, whether you are going the self or traditionally published route. It's very technical and in-depth process of proofreading the whole manuscript and revising the text to improve its flow and structure. So it's oh, I put that exact same thing in my notes. So I was like looking at it. I'm like, wait, I just said that. So it corrects spelling, grammar, punctuation, and syntax. So, you know, even though you like go through Grammarly, like it's not going to catch everything. So you do need to hire a professional, or if you have an agent and an editor, they will go through that with you. It ensures consistency in spelling, hyphenation, numerals, fonts, and capitalization. Flags ambiguous or factually incorrect statements, and tracks things for like internal consistency. So kind of going into the internal consistency, it means that your plot, setting, and character traits don't have any discrepancies. So, you know, your character has the same eye color and hair color throughout, if they're left or right-handed, things like that. So another thing that they'll look at is, which is really cool to think like, oh, like you don't, like everything doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Like you're gonna have help through this, you guys, which is awesome. But so things like some are capitalized versus some are not capitalized, capitalizing the mountains and Rocky Mountains or not, like having it capitalized in one part when you mention it and then not in the other. So this is your copy editor's job to find that. And there may be some overlap between the work of a general editor. So if you hire an editor to go through those developmental line edits, and a copy editor. And then we're almost done, you guys, only a couple more slides. And then the last pass after the copy editor is the proofreader. And so after the with the proofreader, after your manuscript has been copy edited, it needs to be converted from a Word document to book size pages. So this is where a formatter comes in. Oh, sorry, I kind of worded that weird, sorry. So your formatter will format your pages to be ready for book form. And then once the formatter has done all that, then a proofreader is needed to be hired to go through one last time to make sure nothing was missed during any of the editing stages. They should be hired if you are self-publishing. Ideally, they should be different from your copy editor, because if you're using one person to do all of your edits, they have already seen your manuscript multiple times and they will miss things. So you do want to try to hire different editors for these different stages so that you can, again, get those fresh eyes and be able to catch anything that other people may have missed. All right. And then, okay, very last pass is the hook. So once you've finished all your edits and have made your manuscript the best it can be, if you're looking to traditionally publish, you want to consider these things before you're querying. And then with self-publishing, you want to keep your readers in mind. So you really want to critically analyze your hook and the opening lines. So have you really caught your reader's attention or the agent's attention? Are they going to be like pulled into the action right away? Are they going to like the main character? Are they going to be interested in reading more? And this ties into the next bullet point, which most agents ask for the first 5 to 10 pages with the query letter, which is super cutthroat. You have this, 300 whatever page manuscript and they want 5 pages. You're like, well, okay. So you don't have a lot to prove and to prove yourself to them. So you really have to make those first pages shine. So so that's what I always look at now is where are those 5 or 10 page cutoffs? Would the agent or the reader want to keep reading more? Especially that first line, that first paragraph, first page. But those are big because if people aren't interested in it, they're not going to keep reading. So this is like, the biggest editing thing like that you want to do. Make sure, because we all want our readers and agents to read our books. So last chance Q&A, you guys. We made it. Oh, so please, I know I kind of sped through that at the end really fast because I had gone through everything so long, but everyone had such great questions. And I'm really glad we had a good discussion about everything. And I feel like I learned some things too, and I feel like we learned a lot. So let me know if you guys have any last minute questions. I want to thank you guys for coming and for joining me. You guys are awesome. I had a blast. Like I said, this video will be available for replay if you want to watch it back for future reference or share it with other people that weren't able to make it. I am on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at WriteHollyDavis. So go ahead and give me a follow, you guys. Oh, Zuko's meowing. This is great because when we brought him back from the ER the first time, he was not meowing at all. And so I was really sad. He might want like food or something. And then also don't forget at 4 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, Scarlett Cole will be talking about writing sprint hacks on her channel, which I'm super excited about attending. And then after that, or not after that, but from 4 to 5:30, Sarah will be hosting writing sprints. Both of those are linked down below. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is great. I am so glad that he's meowing because it means he's definitely feeling better because he is the chattiest cat I have ever had. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so I definitely also need to be doing some writing sprints afterwards as well. Okay. Yay, thank you guys so much. Oh no, my YouTube is being super slow now. I had so much fun, you guys. I just want to make sure there's not any more questions before I go. Oh, let me stop sharing. Oh, I'm back. Oh my gosh. Oh, I totally forgot I had all these like banners. Prep your questions. Yeah, that didn't happen. Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, your cat heard Zuko too. Looking for the intruder. That's great. Oh, thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so excited. And if you guys do think of any questions afterwards, if you want to comment on the video afterwards, I'll be, checking the comments. I always respond to all of your comments. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Yay, I'm so excited. Enjoy the rest of the retreat. Thank Keelan for hosting. Keelan, you're awesome. Woot. Thank you guys, everyone. And I will see you guys at the next retreat. Okay, bye.